This week's guest made her TV debut aged just 8 in the BBC One film Royal Celebration. She's written short stories, novellas, novels and poems, as well as a novel for the Lethbridge-Stewart range for Candy Jar Books. She's more recently reprised the role played by her mother Elizabeth Sladen, Sarah Jane Smith for Big Finish, but she's also shared screen time with a young Gerry Anderson. To tell us more, it's Sadie Miller! Sadie, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Well, you made an extra special effort to come all the way to Slough. I hope it hasn't been a disappointment so far.
No, it's been lovely. Thank you.
Now, we're going to talk to you about your wide-ranging career. Our viewers and listeners have sent in some questions that they will want me to ask you a little later on. We're going to be looking at some clips of your first Anderson memories, your favourite characters, and also a couple of little treats as well that we've thrown in for good measure.
Lovely.
So, a family of actors. Mother and father, both in the business, of course, Brian Miller and Elizabeth Sladen. What sort of a house did you grow up in then? Was it a theatrical household?
I suppose that it was really without intentionally thinking about it. I think by the time I came along, my mum was sort of semi-retired, so I don't think that her acting was necessarily something I was overly aware of, but certainly my dad was working consistently. Yeah. But it was all quite separate from me as a child. My dad did a lot of theatre work, a lot of work on the radio, stuff that I wasn't necessarily exposed to. So it just felt very, very normal, really. Nothing that I would say was particularly different about it. A normal family house, really.
Yeah, I see. And was there a moment in your early life where you thought, OK, there was nothing special perhaps about what your mum and dad were doing, but that you might want to follow in their footsteps at some point, or did that come later?
I think I was always a bit of a weird child. I always felt different to other kids, really. And I think my play and my creativity was kind of a disassociation a little bit from reality. I didn't really realise that's what it was until I got older. So I used to just love being other people and kind of getting to play different roles, even as a child. And it kind of, the enjoyment, the play side of it was really what attracted me to it.
Right.
And I think with parents who are actors I think being an actor, you live a bit outside of the norm anyway, because your job is also such an integral part of who you are. And I think for a lot of people, they don't necessarily understand that dichotomy, because to them their job is very separate to the rest of their life. It facilitates the rest of their life, where for actors it is their life. So I think it was just something that I assimilated as part of myself, and I didn't really realise.
That's interesting.
So when I was working as a child, I think it was just the enjoyment of it more than anything else, really.
What do you remember of your early career? I think your first TV appearance was aged 8, is that right?
It was really good fun.
Yeah.
Everyone that I worked with on, it was just a little TV film called Royal Celebration with Leslie Phillips. So I get to sit on his knee between takes, and he was so kind. And Minnie Driver, Rupert Graves. Were my parents in it, and everyone was very, very lovely to a little child. But it was, I felt very adult at quite a young age, being around so many adults. And I think it's something that I wouldn't necessarily choose for my own children. I think it's nice to have a childhood that is not encumbered by the knowledge of adult.
Yes. Interesting. You mentioned there that what attracted you to sort of perhaps the acting side of things was playing. Make believe?
Yeah, totally.
Is that something you've carried with you into your adult life?
I think so, yeah. I try and be as disconnected from reality as possible at all times.
It's so underrated, isn't it, reality?
Absolutely. I think having that childishness and that playfulness is so important. You know, I think when we talk about even finding partners in life, we talk about someone to grow old with, but it's about someone to be a child with forever, isn't it? It's finding that kind of all the things that you love as a child are really what connect you to the core of yourself, I think. So that was definitely how I always found my way back to myself, was through creativity and play, really.
So can I ask, what did you love as a child? Were you watching much TV or films, or what sort of culture were you consuming?
I would watch a lot of old movies, really, old Hollywood films, lots of Hitchcock and Fellini and things that I probably shouldn't have been watching maybe as a child.
Yeah.
But I was always very entranced by women like, Betty Davis and Barbara Stanwyck, and these very strong, I guess, women on the edge.
Yeah, interesting.
And that was always what I was really drawn to, I think, even as a child, that idea of pushing all the corners of your human experience. That was always what I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned those strong women there. We'll come to this in a moment because in our email exchange prior to you coming today, I asked you for your first Anderson memory, and it was of a very particular character who many would consider to be not a strong character at all.
Oh, interesting.
Perhaps we'll leave this conversation until we see it. Sure. But before then, I'd like to play a quick game with you.
Yes,
now,
lovely.
This is called Super Identification. No, there's no pressure at all. It's just a bit of fun. I'm going to play you some very quick clips from every one of the title sequences of Gerry Anderson's shows from the 1950s all the way through to the 2000s. 18 in total.
Oh, wow.
You can see a few scores ranged here of previous guests. Don't worry, we're not expecting you to be anywhere on there. Low or high, doesn't matter. Okay, it's just a bit of fun.
Perfect.
So have a look at this and feel free to shout out any that you recognise or you're confused by.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, firstly, we're going way, way back here.
Oh, wow.
That was quick. Second one now. Still black and white.
Oh, my gosh.
Not ringing any bells.
No.
No, fine. Still very early days.
Space 1999, maybe?
Hold that thought.
Oh.
Now, here's one.
Oh, yep. Thunderbirds, of course, yes.
There's your first ticket for free. Very quick, and on to the next. This is a rather curious piece. No. And into live action now in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Robert Vaughan and Dog. What did you mention earlier?
Oh, Space 1999.
Got it.
This is an emergency.
Into the 80s now. Very popular with students, this one.
Gosh, it's too fast for my brain.
Very, very quick. We're almost there. And finally.
Gosh.
There we go. I know.
That's my...
I know. They come at you
Bamboozled.
hard and fast.
Gosh, I can't believe someone got all 18.
They did. I can't believe that Gerry made 18 TV
No,
series.
neither can I. Gosh.
Can you imagine that? Just getting one off the ground is difficult enough.
Yeah, amazing.
I mean, I'm sure you won't be surprised to know you got two.
Me.
Two is okay. Two is better than one. So look, there's your score on your rather fetching
Oh, thank you.
very own Thunderbirds doll that we'll put on the table a little later on. So obviously not that familiar with Gerry's work. I mean, I know you are familiar to some extent because you've given me a few heads up of some things that we can look at later. So what does the name Gerry Anderson mean to you, if anything at all? Obviously not very much as a young girl, but did you ever become aware of things like Thunderbirds? Can you remember when you first...
Yeah, definitely. I remember watching Gerry Anderson TV programmes growing up, but I don't think I necessarily was a fan. So in my brain, I don't think it's cognitively logged them as, this is this particular character from this particular show.
Yes.
I think the look of Gerry Anderson is so definitive that you can see a clip and know that it's Gerry Anderson, puppetry, puppet work.
Yeah.
But for my brain, not necessarily from... which particular shows. I think for me as well, not being particularly sci-fi minded as well, maybe. I don't know.
Well, for a young girl who was happy watching Fellini films, I can imagine the world's of Gerry Anderson.
So what's the one that he did with Robert Vaughan then?
That's The Protectors.
Oh,
so that's not
interesting.
sci-fi. That's a sort of a bit of an outlier in that the project was brought to him rather than him producing the project from scratch, if you see what I mean. So, yeah, that's it's more of a sort of a spy adventure series from 1970. Chris?
1, 2, 3.
1971 to 3.
Wow.
But yes, Space 1999 you did remember, and you mentioned that early on, so that's obviously a name that was sort of floating around.
Yeah, I think it's also because of a Big Finish connection, because they do audios, don't
That's
they?
right, Big Finish and UFO as well, which was another one up there as well, So you have children of your own now, I believe. So what are they watching? As how old are they?
So I've got two little boys who are 4 and 7.
Right.
And I think the way that children consume media now has changed so much, and they prefer to watch other content created by other children, really. So they watch a lot of children's YouTube and
created by other children.
So obviously, parents behind it and stuff, but they like watching other children playing games or opening toys and that sort of thing to kind of connect with their peer group, much more so than even film. We'll go to the cinema and they enjoy that experience, but they're much more interested in the immediacy of how it's kind of connects to them rather than going into a fantasy land and being drawn into something otherworldly, I would say, from my experience with my kids.
And how do you view that? Do you view that as something of a shame, or is this just, every generation is different and moves on to other forms of media and we've just got to accept that?
I think it's just the way that the world is changing, really, isn't it? I think so much of our real life is transferring to being online that I think it's natural that children would project and see a version of themselves online, and that's how they would envisage them. I guess as kids, when you watch shows, when you watch films, you're kind of envisaging yourself as an adult, aren't you, to some degree? Maybe this will be me, maybe something will happen to me. And when they watch other children in, going on holiday somewhere or playing a game that they want, it's almost that forward projection, I guess. But it has more immediacy because they're seeing another child of their age do it. So I guess it's just... I think as they get older, they'll probably appreciate different TV and film. But at the moment, I think the ages that they prefer their own peer group, really. Yeah, no, it's interesting, isn't it, the way it's evolving and the way children are absorbing media rather than sort of watching it appointment to view has gone. I mean, that whole idea of sitting as a family around a TV to watch a programme is sort of pretty non-existent now, isn't it? I think that's a shame. I definitely do feel that. I mean, I used to watch a lot of these more adult films because I was watching them with my parents, whereas my kids now, even at 4 and 7, they don't want to watch the same thing as each other, so there's no chance of all of us watching something together. I think the only film that we've ever all watched together is probably The Wizard of Oz. So they do like older cinema, and they do connect to that. But I guess. And as a young girl from a family that was in the business and moving into the business yourself, were you watching TV from an insider's point of view or an outsider's point of view? A little bit of both. I think, obviously, people ask me quite a bit, did I enjoy Doctor Who when I was a child? And I think one of the reasons I didn't was because I would watch with my mum and she would obviously be commenting on everything and, this person is this, that person did that, God. So you sort of start to disconnect from it a little bit. So I think it would depend, really. And I think if you have parents who are actors, it is impossible to watch anything without them saying, I know so-and-so, trying to watch Jurassic Park, look, there's Bob Peck. It kind of breaks the fantasy a little bit. But that's right. Yeah, to an extent. You brought up the sort of the science fiction world there that has sort of held no interest for you as a child, but it's a world that you've kind of finally had to embrace. Not had to embrace, you chose to embrace. Forced to. So are you happier within that world now? I think so. I mean, I think for me, when I say science fiction, I think of it in a very purist way, where it's, little green men with 3 heads, Carrie John would say. Whereas I think with Big Finish, a lot of the sci-fi is wrapped up in something bigger than that. Like, say, Michael Crichton talking about Jurassic Park just moments ago. That idea of how, science fiction can shape our society and how it can actually involve, going back and forth in time and replaying history. So I think there's so many different components to it that as a child I wouldn't necessarily be aware of coming under the umbrella of science fiction. Yeah, absolutely. Now, it's time to have a look at your first Anderson memory then. You chose a rather specific character and a rather specific song. So let's have a look at this.
Strange enchantments that start whenever you're near. Marina, Aquamarina, why can't you whisper the words that my heart is longing to hear?
And there she was, Aquamarina from Stingray.
Yes.
And that beautiful closing theme from the closing credits as well. What was it about Marina that transfixed you so?
Well, when I was a child, obviously I was obsessed with mermaids and underwater and everything like that. So seeing her in the water, I was like, I want to do that immediately. Let us go to the swimming pool and try and recreate those moments.
Right.
I think the music as well is just so entrancing, isn't it? I remember my dad singing along to it and things.
Every dad will sing along to that, believe you me.
Just something so magical and so otherworldly about it, I think.
That's right.
And in, I guess, a series that's quite male-centric, I suppose, to have something so ethereal, I thought was very captivating for a little girl.
Yeah, certainly. But what's interesting about Marina, of course, is that she never speaks. So that's why I was interested about you saying about, strong... You could be a strong woman and not have a line of dialogue, absolutely. But it's interesting. But that sort of wafty movement. I used to have a similar thing, you may not remember, Patrick Duffy in The Man from Atlantis. No, which is a TV series, and he played a man from Atlantis in modern times. But he had a certain way of swimming underwater, which I would try and I'd try and emulate it in the swimming pool.
Oh wow,
it's terribly sad, isn't it?
But there was another, I can't remember her name now, another female character in Stingray who is quite
Atlanta.
Yes, the daughter.
Yes, the daughter of Commander Shaw.
Yeah,
yes.
and so she was. I always remember she was quite in charge and knew what was actually going on.
Yeah.
So you still got that strong feminine energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever have a Marina cosplay outfit like you would do these days, of course?
No, I didn't. I think cosplaying now is amazing, isn't it? Just fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I have to mention your recent picture on Instagram that seemed to take the world by storm. Would you like to explain?
No, I just dressed up as my mum. Not even the whole costume, just the top half from Planet of the Spiders, using our spider that we put up for Halloween and just like a little stripy top. And people were very receptive to it, which was really nice.
It was lovely. Yeah, absolutely. It was the Radio Times. They tweeted it and all sorts.
Stupid. I feel so silly.
I mean, perhaps this is a bit of a heavy question. Do you feel that you're somehow curating your mother's sort of legacy and so on in the little homages, and obviously playing Sarah Jane for Big Finish?
Not particularly. I think that people nowadays like to brand certain things and put a certain narrative on things because it creates content, because the importance of creating content is just part of anything showbizy nowadays, I guess. Yeah. But I just live in my own little silly world.
Yes,
do silly things that make me happy and hopefully don't offend anyone.
No, exactly right. Great. Now, we do have some fantastic questions from our listeners and viewers, if you're happy to answer them.
Yes.
So we put them in our rather tasteful Space 1999 lunchbox.
The chap on the front.
Yes, Martin Landau as Commander Koenig, the lead actor from Space 1999.
I never knew that.
Google
my
it.
gosh.
Yeah.
I love Martin Landau.
I think you'll love Space 1999. Yeah, worth a look, isn't it?
Oh, wow.
Every day's a school day.
Yeah, I never knew that. Oh, my gosh.
There you go. So reach into there and take a question.
Okay, so this is from John Reed. If you, I think we've probably covered this.
Go on.
If you could be any character in a Gerry Anderson series, who would it be? Well, I would have said maybe actually Atlanta.
Yes, right.
But now, any character in Space 1999 in order to meet Martin Landau, if I could go back in time.
Well,
Can't believe that.
You could always be Barbara Bain.
Dye my hair,
Yeah,
sorted.
but his wife in real life played opposite him in Space 1999.
That's amazing. I can't believe I never knew that. What a terrible...
Not at all. No, we forgive you. Don't worry. Another question.
Ooh, a chunky one. Scott Anthony Bicklicky.
That's it.
I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Hi, Sadie. Mike, my question is, if there was ever a reboot of Stingray, this is insane, what would your dream role be, such as Atlanta, etc.?
Well,
I'd love to play Atlanta, but I would also happily play anyone. The actor's response. I will play anyone.
Yes, quite literally.
Please cast
Available
me, Jamie.
for panto, bar mitzvahs, children's parties. Yeah, that's right.
Please cast me, Jamie. Thank you.
Not too subtle a plug for work there, I don't think.
Oh, and Steve Bushell. Oh my gosh, Sarah Jane Smith was my doctor's assistant. My sister almost got named Sarah, but my parents vetoed it. What? Apparently I called her Sarah anyway. Oh, it's lovely. My question would be, how old were you when you realised your parents were famous? So I don't think of my parents as famous, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're maybe a Brangelina child, then you could say your parents are famous. I call my mum a niche micro celeb.
Oh, I think that's slightly unfair.
Well, actually, before she died, if you Googled her name, a picture of Sherry Lungi would come up, which I would...
Why?
I don't know. So I used to troll my mum about it. We would laugh about it.
Yeah. Gosh.
I think probably when I started going to the conventions, I realised my mum had a little bit of profile, and that
So you
Doctor
went
Who was this
with
great.
her, you mean?
Yeah, she would always take me along.
Right.
And obviously I realised her connection to Doctor Who and how important it was to other people, which I think was the most amazing part of it, really. Not that she was famous, but that she was connected to this wider community that, meant so much to people, which was always really special. But no, she used to take me along, and I haven't taken my kids, so...
I was going to say, of course, you're now part of that community.
Aww.
So how does it feel now from the other side of the fence, as it were?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very humbling, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think to be... Obviously, we've performed together, I think we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredibly humbling to be part of something that is so special to people, that people grew up with, that's now generational. You know, parents watching it with kids, I think is just magical, and we need more of that in the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Here. Time for a couple more, I think. So, deep, plenty in there. That's it. Don't worry.
Right, here we go. Jonathan Westall. I'm really enjoying your performance as Sarah Jane Smith, my favourite companion for Big Finish. How has it been for you playing a fan favourite character over the past few years? So I would say when I first started, I was obviously very apprehensive because it's a well-loved character and you don't want to mess it up. And then once the Sideman story came out and people accepted my performance as Sarah, it's all kind of snowballed from there and been a wonderful experience and a privilege to be a part of. But I definitely was very nervous. And if it wasn't for the fans of the show and people accepting me, I wouldn't be able to do it. So thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say that there was a little disquiet about the idea of recasting favourite old characters, particularly from actors who are no longer with us, the earlier Doctors and companions and so on. But how difficult, or was there ever a moment of doubt for you? Or was it a given that you were going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Daisy and I, take over from our mums. You always have that thing of, should I do this? I'm not quite sure. I think when they brought in Tim to be John Pertwee, they did it very sensitively because he was the narrator, I think, first of all, before he then took over the role properly.
That's right.
But they approached me at a time in my life where it just slotted in very well, and I felt like it was the right thing to do, in lieu, obviously, of Mum not being able to do it.
That's right.
And
of course she would have been delighted, wouldn't she?
Oh, well, I think she'd probably be pleased it was me rather than someone else. But,
exactly right, yes.
I'm sure she'd have some comments on my performance.
Okay, and the final one for now.
Let's do a chunky one. Right.
Good, yeah.
From Alex Pass, Sadie starred in several excellent audio remakes, alternative versions of classic Who stories, and recently was pictured recreating that famous Planet of the Spiders publicity still. Is there a particular Sarah Jane story or scene that you'd like to take a crack at in the future?
Oh.
Well, I got to do Genesis of the Daleks with Jamie, obviously recreating, which was really
So talk us through
amazing.
that. What's that about? How come you're doing Genesis of the Daleks?
So I think they found some of the original scripts, and so they were kind of recreating what might have been on screen, and there was a bit of patching it all together, which was exciting. But in terms of ones I'd like to take a crack at in the future, I don't know really. I mean, my favourite two stories were always Time Warrior and Prisoners of Mars, and I think that Prisoners of Mars especially has a very Hammer horror vibe, doesn't it? The Mummy is almost exactly the same as the Christopher Lee Mummy.
Well.
So if Jamie wants to make that, please call me. I am happy to be chased by anyone.
Sadie, why don't you just leave your CV on the desk when you leave? And your spotlight link, and we'll pass
just
it
put
on.
myself out. But anything. Or Russell, please call me. Someone call me.
Now, I'm guessing you were involved in Big Finish's 60th anniversary special, Once and Future, I think. Their sort of umbrella series. So what was that like, and when did you do that? I mean...
So that was a couple of years ago, because we record them, well, obviously as well, out of order and at different times, all being remote and whatever. It's very easy to lose tracks. That was a couple of years ago now. So it's really exciting for me, because when they come out, I get to listen to it and hear everyone come together. Yeah, which is brilliant, really.
We worked together on a Tom Baker story. We were saying over lunch that Jamie directed, and it was during COVID, so it was remote. I was in the cupboard in my garage, and we were trying really hard to remember which one it was. What is that? What was this? Because it's not out yet, of course. Yeah, so may not be for another year or two.
I guess so. I can't remember the name of it, because I think they changed the name, or there was some confusion with another Big Finish story, I think.
Right.
So,
yes.
But I don't think we'd be allowed to say the name if it's not come out.
Probably not. No, so we better be very careful.
Yeah.
I expect the first thing we'll know about it is when it pops through our letterbox and we get to listen to it.
Yes, definitely.
So I'd love to talk to you more about Big Finish next week and your work as Sarah Jane and others. But for now, I'm going to show you a little clip of something where you shared the screen with someone not a million miles away from here. So let's have a look at this.
Well, of course, I have made a lot of children's programmes, things like Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, Joe 90 and so forth. But the real tragedy of my life is that my son, Jamie, is...
a Doctor Who fan.
Yes, a Doctor Who fan.
The biggest joy is that a year and a half ago, Sadie started to notice Doctor Who, to watch it, and you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Yeah.
And our house is literally packed with TARDISes of all shapes and sizes, and videos and books. I mean, you name it, it's there. We're going to have to move house shortly to make more room for his Doctor Who collection.
I had no idea. You see, the videos are coming out now. There's a whole new audience. It's so exciting. It's really back to youngsters again, and this wonderful thing about a hero, and Doctor Who will win. They need it. They love it.
I think that the role of the monster and the frightening story is very much the role of the ogre and the giant in fairy stories. It's something to be frightened of, which is containable because it's obviously made up. A child can accept a monster when it's quite clearly not something is going to meet round the corner.
Sadie being very brave in the face of a Sontaran.
Well, I got to do a really big scream and then they cut it
Oh,
out.
no.
Which I remember being very cross about.
Yeah.
But that poor actor in that Sontaran costume,
Yeah.
I remember like mucking about that mask and tweaking his
really?
nose and just
Oh, I
being
bet
a
he loved
terror.
you. So that's more than 30 years in the TARDIS, a documentary celebrating more than 30 years of Doctor Who, with you and Jamie.
Oh, lovely
But
Jamie.
you say you never met on the day, of course, because it was filmed separately.
No, just chatting with Jamie before, I totally thought he was the other kid. I didn't even realise that was Jamie, which
Yes.
is ridiculous now, watching it, where it literally says on the screen, Jamie Anderson.
That's right.
Oh, but it's lovely.
Yeah. Which sort of brings us to a question, thinking of Jamie and thinking of you in your position and the careers that you've chosen to follow. I was at drama school with Lucy Briers, Richard Briers' daughter, and Daryl Pertwee, John Pertwee's daughter.
Oh, wow.
And they sort of sought each other out because they had shared lived experiences of following in famous footsteps, shall we say. Are you aware of kind of, being part of some sort of legacy, or is that too grand a term to use?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that legacy means different things in different ways for people. I think everyone takes from their family things that have come before and you kind of assimilate it into who you are. But it's not something that I would necessarily think of in my everyday life, apart from Big Finish. For example, obviously, no one in my local area, I live kind of quite a remote place, no one knows about Doctor Who.
Right.
No one at my kids' school know that their grandma is...
Right.
It's just very separate.
And has that been a deliberate thing to keep it low key in your life and just be part of your
It
life?
just never comes up.
Yeah, I see.
And I would never bring it up, so I kind of appreciate it and enjoy it for what it is, but it's not something that I would ever, try and push to the front unnecessarily, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Now, just before we round off for this part of the interview, it's time to play Quick Fire 5.
Oh, God.
It's another game, but there are no points here, so it doesn't matter how well you do. It's simply, I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and they require an either-or answer.
Okay.
So there's no right or wrong answer, essentially, okay? Are you ready for these?
Yes.
Okay. A trip to the seabed with Aquamarina or a trip to the stars in Fireball XL5?
Oh, seabed.
Oh, choose your transport home, Thunderbird 2 or Lady Penelope's Rolls-Royce?
Oh, probably Thunderbirds 2, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, you can get home much quicker that way, for sure. You have the keys to the TARDIS. Do you go back to the past and the Wild West of Gerry's series Four Feather Falls, or forward to the future and the moon base from Space 1999?
Oh, no, that's so difficult. I'd go for Martin Landau.
Would you? Yes. Not sure what Barbara Bain would have to say about that, but okay. Choose a pet. You can choose Oink the seal from Stingray or Mitch the monkey from Supercar.
Oh, Oink.
And finally, the agents from Spectrum in Captain Scarlet are named after colours. So choose yours from the Dulux colour range. Are you Captain Apricot Crush or Lieutenant Mineral Mist?
Mineral Mist, I guess.
I knew you were going to say that. Well done. That's your quick fire 5.
Oh,
I told
thank
you it'd be
you.
quick and painless. There you go. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your writing, about your career as an actor, how you got a bit further into that world via various training avenues and so on. We'll, of course, be touching on Big Finish, and we'll also be looking at your favourite Anderson moment. So tell us about your writing. Now, I understand that you've prior to taking over as Sarah Jane Smith, you dipped your toe into the Doctor Who world a little bit earlier as well, with the Lethbridge-Stewart novel.
Yes, so the novel Moonblink I wrote in 2016. I have very weird memories of it, though. I was pregnant at the time, and I remember going back and forth with my editor, and it just sort of all...
Right.
came together. But I was obviously apprehensive about writing something where it was someone else's characters primarily and having to do that research. And obviously there's certain characters you can't mention. You have to be a bit careful of
yes.
that. But that was a great experience.
Right.
And writing is something that I feel, I guess, more drawn to now, especially getting older, being able to write your own stories and create your own way of looking at the world.
Are you a bit of a control freak then? Because that's what I feel about writing. You write a character, you think, I could kill you if I wanted. Does that not appeal?
Going a bit dark there for a minute. To a certain extent, I feel like the creative industries are not necessarily geared towards women, or women having, maybe not so much now, but certainly when I was younger, having the longevity of career that, say, a man might do. And I think writing your own stuff is a great way to kind of circumnavigate that. So I've written something for myself, which is like a one-woman show, which hopefully will be going doing fringe festivals next year. So that will be quite fun.
Right. Is that an exclusive?
No, not necessarily exclusive. But I definitely feel more attracted to writing my own things, creating my own things, and I guess that feeds more into what we were talking about before about playing and wanting to enjoy the creative side rather than it necessarily being financially motivated as the primary concern. Yes,
well, good luck with that in this business.
Thank you.
To be financially motivated. I'm intrigued by this one-woman show, though. So is this from your own, is it sort of autobiographical, or is it a fictional take on another character's life? Or?
So it's kind of a mix of both, I guess. It's kind of a horror comedy, and it's called A Girl is a Haunted House, and it's about the horror story, I guess, of being a woman, but it's not necessarily completely female-centric. It's, I guess, a bit about the millennial experience, which is obviously the perspective that I have to write from, but hopefully people will enjoy it and take from it something longer lasting, I hope.
Yeah, I'm sure. So entering the world of Lethbridge-Stewart, now I understand, as you said, it's not a Doctor Who novel by any means.
Sure.
But did that involve looking at the old series and to try and get a handle on the character in some way?
Definitely. I mean, I did get to meet Nick Courtney a few times, and I think he was always quite Brig-like, I would say, a bit kind of, not standoffish, but, held himself a bit differently, I suppose. So I definitely had to look more into his episodes and his character, because it's not something I would necessarily have known that much just from watching the series. But I think he's quite interesting, isn't he? Because there's so much with his backstory that can then obviously lead into other stories.
Yes. I mean, rather like, Sarah Jane Smith, the companions are just as important a part of the show as the Doctor themselves. That's an extraordinary thing. It seems that you're sort of remarkably unfazed about rekindling or maybe recreating or revisiting classic characters. Obviously, Sarah Jane Smith is a classic character we know, and Lethbridge-Stewart too. So you were never sort of fazed by diving in head first?
It's where I've gone wrong. Not particularly. I think all characters are created equal to an extent, in that as a creative performer, whoever, you can all come in on that same baseline and do with them what you can with your capacity as like a writer or an actor. So I think if you start with any creative job, if you start to think too much about it, you get into that very over-analytical self-saboteur area, I would suggest. If you think about it too deeply, I think it can trip you up a bit. I guess just saying yes to things and then seeing how they pan out sometimes is the way
exactly
to go.
Right. Yeah, I'm doing a theatre show at the moment. It's a Sherlock Holmes show.
Oh, wow.
And I was talking to the guy who's playing Sherlock the other day, and he said, we're doing it again, it's the second time, and he said last year he was sort of crippled with self-doubt because he was playing Sherlock Holmes. But then he realised, no, that's not the way to approach it. I'm just playing a character who happens to be called Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. So maybe there's something of that in there as well, isn't there? You just happen to be writing for a character who happens to be called Lethbridge-Stewart, or playing a character who happens to be called Sarah Jane Smith, and maybe that takes the pressure off a little. Yeah, interesting. Now, I'd like to go back to your favourite Anderson memory. And it's interesting that you mentioned something there about your one-woman show being something of a horror story. And that chimes a little bit with your favourite Anderson moment. So let's have a look.
see anything else, Captain?
No, sir. Nothing. Wait. Yeah. Green 002. It's a galleon. An old-fashioned sailing ship. I can hardly believe it. Is it wrecked, Troy? She looks seaworthy enough.
Can you see any sign of life aboard, Troy?
No, sir. She looks deserted. I'll give her a call on the loud hailer. Ahoy there! Anyone on board? Is there anyone on board? Huh. It's like talking to a ghost ship.
And there's the title, Stingray, the ghost ship. Interestingly, when we ask guests for favourite characters or moments or scenes, they're never that specific.
Oh,
but
really?
you came back and said, ghost ship, Stingray, the moment where the ship appears out of the fog. So what was it that arrested you so much about that scene?
Oh, I love it. It's the aesthetic that I enjoy to a T. And I love that moment where you know something's coming and you're just waiting, and that little musical trill, and my skin just goes all smoky just watching it. I think it's fantastic.
It's so cleverly done.
Yeah, and for kids' shows, I love where there's that kind of that darkness, that otherness. I think it's so important for children to experience that in a, say, I guess I talked about it in 30 Years in the TARDIS last week, but that idea of a safe danger almost, I think is fantastic. So yeah,
Safe danger. Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Is that something that you wish you'd have with your boys? I mean, would you sit down and watch The Ghost Ship with them if you could find it online? Or would they enjoy it, do you think?
I guess so. I don't know. That's a good point. I maybe have to get them to watch it. My kids don't shy away from the dark side of things, I guess. So yeah, maybe they would enjoy it actually.
Yeah.
I'll have to sit them down.
I mean, I follow you on Instagram, seen various posts. You seem to inhabit many different worlds, if I could put it like that. Is that your experience of life, that there is perhaps more than meets the eye?
I don't know how to answer that. It's chaos.
Yeah, right.
I guess so. I mean...
and is that a comfort?
I don't know. I suppose so. I feel like... I don't know. It gets a bit dark now, doesn't it? I feel like from going through life things, obviously watching my mum pass away and things, and then go through a very difficult divorce and things like that, I'm at a place in life where I think you have to enjoy life in a visceral way. You have to just put yourself out there and be present in every area of your life. Yeah. So when I'm at home with my kids, I'm just mum. When I'm at work, I get to do things like this. It's so enjoyable to just connect with other humans, and the same with creative things. So I don't edit myself, I guess, for better or for worse.
No, I think it's for better. I think that's a good sort of coda to live by, whatever you've been through. You know what I mean? That's just to be present and enjoy every moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Difficult to do sometimes, I know, but there we are. Now, talk to us then about, I know you went on various training courses, National Youth Theatre and RADA, I think. Was this you just sort of dipping your toe in, or preparing yourself for life as an actor, or just a way of getting new tools for whatever life may throw at you? Yeah,
so my parents were always very academically minded, and they pushed me very hard to be very academic, and I'm not.
Right, yeah, fair enough.
Unfortunately. So I went to university, and then after university I did a few different courses before prepping for my auditions for drama school. But I did also try and be an agent. I interned at different agents' office, but unfortunately I sort of came out of university 2008-ish time, when obviously there was the big recession, so I couldn't really get a job properly. So I went to drama school almost as like, well, I guess I'm doing this now. My fallback, which is totally ridiculous.
Wow.
And then I came out again. It's like, oh, another recession. What a dream, what a dream.
Bad timing.
But I always like to be busy and doing things and doing creative stuff. And the National Youth Theatre is obviously great, running courses for younger people of all backgrounds and abilities to get into drama, which is fantastic. And RADA as well, they do this, I think it's 4 weeks of Shakespeare, which is wonderful to get to dive into as well. So yes, I'd recommend both of those for anyone interested.
Oh, great. No, the agent side of things is interesting. Is that a side of the business you might yet find yourself in, do you think? Or?
Well, it was more, I think, because I after leaving university and, having all those years of studying and structure, it felt very weird to then think about going into a very creative headspace again. So I wanted to kind of make sure and do something more office-minded again. But obviously, I think if I'd gotten a job as an agent, maybe that would have gone down that trajectory. But because obviously there was this big intern culture at the time, which I think has kind of phased out a bit.
Right.
That didn't happen. So
yeah.
See where life goes.
Well, quite, exactly right. And let's see what the viewers and listeners have been sending in, shall we? We have some more questions for you.
Lovely.
In our Space 1999 lunchbox. Came all the way from America, this,
Did it?
One
wow.
of our listeners, Robert found it for us. So have a
so
dive
cool.
in there. And
Thank you. See who we've got.
Yeah.
Our poor Hyder. With you and Jamie both having a famous parent, I wonder how that affected your upbringing and whether you know any other people with a famous parent. Yeah, I mean, I know we've chatted a bit before that for me, it didn't really affect my upbringing massively. And I don't think I do know anyone with, like, I guess when you have parents in the business, you know of them. But I don't think there's not like a little Facebook group.
No, you don't have your own WhatsApp group.
The group
famous
chat.
children.
I guess the only other person I would know is Daisy.
Of course.
Really.
Yes, that's right, yes.
But no,
Yeah,
alas not.
Yeah. Have you worked with Daisy at Big Finish,
No,
or you've not
no.
appeared together yet? No.
Not yet, hopefully. Fingers crossed in the future.
A crossover would be good, yes, why
That'd be
not?
good.
Yeah.
Picture myself again.
Yeah, there we
Thanks
go.
for helping me. Okay, it's from Morty Vicker. Sadie, I've loved your performances as Sarah Jane with Big Finish in 3rd and 4th Doctor Adventures. I know you've done some writing in the past as well. Imagine then that Big Finish and Jamie approach you with a proposal to write an audio adventure for them from the Anderson universe. Number 1, which of the Anderson franchises would you choose to write for? And 2, which of the characters do you think you give the best line to?
Okay.
And a cheeky 3,
yes.
would you want to play a character role in it yourself?
Okay.
I feel like all of these
that,
podcasts,
yes, please.
it's just me pitching for work like a horrible actor.
Hey, take it.
writer.
Take the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I think that the only Anderson show that I remember having a real connection to was Stingray, really.
yes.
So I guess that would be what I would have to
That's
go
right.
for. I have pitched a couple of ideas to Big Finish for 4th Doctor Adventures, which have not materialised. But, touch wood, maybe at some point something may happen. But
that's
very
right.
cool questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
nice, isn't it? Yeah. I think there's 3 or 4 left. So
lovely.
let's get through them, shall we?
We'll bomb through. Right.
Finish them off.
Robert Monk. Was it strange stepping into your late mother's shoes? And were you worried about what the fans would say? Loved you opposite Tim's 3rd Doctor and John's Brig. Oh, that's lovely. Tim and John, lovely. I mean, obviously it was a bit strange. And I did say to my dad, do you think I should do this? And my dad said yes. And then I found out a few days ago that my dad wasn't really paying attention. He just thought they'd asked me to do a character.
Oh, really?
So, but Daisy's dad apparently doesn't listen to her either. So I feel...
No, that's terrible.
So I feel that's fine.
But I'm guessing, okay, so your dad misunderstood that question. but would he... Is he okay with it?
Oh, yeah, no, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, it was lovely.
Bittersweet, I would think.
Yeah,
for both
definitely.
of you, of course.
Of
and
course.
for the listeners as well.
Yeah,
We miss your
absolutely.
mum, of course we do.
Oh,
but,
I know.
But love having you around in her shoes.
Oh, yeah, it's been an amazing opportunity, so
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it, even though obviously I'd rather she was
Of
here
course,
to do
of
it.
course.
Alex Pass. You can take any Anderson vehicle for a test drive. Which one and why?
Oh, well, we've already seen last week in Quickfire 5 that you were going home in Lady Penelope's Royal... No, it was Thunderbird 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, Thunderbird 2. So I'm actually quite phobic about flying, but I feel like I would feel safe in one of those. I don't know
one of the
why.
Thunderbird's craft. Well, they're expertly piloted, you see. So
This
you've
is true.
You've been
Be in safe
hands.
hands. And I feel like I could go into the cockpit because we're talking about am I a control freak? Yes. I'd be able to see what's going on. So I feel like that's what I would choose.
Well, I mean, what about in Stingray itself? What about deep sea exploration?
After that Titanic submersible, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe we'll leave that. Maybe
not to laugh at that. Sorry, I'm
No.
terrible. Getting myself cancelled. Right, Paul Gee. Given your parents' love of acting, were you always destined for the world of entertainment, or did they try and persuade you to follow a different path? So, when my parents were working and I was much younger, there was a child's agent at my parents' agent that took me on.
Yes.
And then when she left, my parents were like, "That's a sign that you should just do child things and not be a child actor and stuff."
Okay.
And so I think they definitely did want me to do something else, which
Yeah.
I agree with, which I think is very sensible.
Right.
But I do think that as parents, you should support what your child wants to do and figure out a way to support them from that foundation up, not push them down and say you're not doing that. I feel like it needs to be
Interesting.
approached a different way. But yes, my parents definitely didn't want me to do it.
I mean, if I may say, you're a woman of many talents and facets. But so how would you describe when someone says, "What do you do?" What do you say?
I I just say I'm a freelance creative.
Yeah,
So anyone
yeah.
that would, no, I shouldn't say that. I should say anyone that used to pay me. No, just that I happily do lots of different things. But
Yeah.
I think since obviously becoming a parent, that is my priority.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't like that necessarily in a creative
gosh.
discussion. I have had people say to me that having children ruined my career, that you shouldn't have children, that if you have children with someone and get divorced, that it then derails your life. And I would like to say to people, no, it does not. And
Wow.
that you can choose that path, and you can do it with kids or without.
Yes.
So
I mean, I have to say, obviously, my experience is vastly different for yours. I'm a man, of course, but as a father and as an actor, acting is very sporadic, as we know, and it meant that actually I spent a lot of time at home with my kids.
Oh, that's
so I got to
lovely.
see a lot of them growing up, and I changed all the nappies and I fed them their food. And, that a lot of dads don't get that experience. So actually, I would say if you're an actor and you want to have kids, well, that's probably the best way to do it, because you're going to see a lot of them.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely lovely. Really nice.
There we go.
Oh, and last one I think is that,
that is, yeah.
perfect. Oh, upside down. Jonathan Bell, has Russell T Davies asked you to do anything for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who? He has not. And he has my email address. Russell, why?
No,
Why?
I was going to say, actually, probably by the time this goes out, we'll know, won't we? Because the 60th will have come and gone. But so
no.
you haven't had the call yet?
No.
I'm guessing, of course, like us all, you'd love to be a part of it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I think
somehow.
Yeah, but even just to work with someone like Russell, I think would just be amazing, because he's such an incredible talent. The way that he tells stories that people need to hear, and in a way that people maybe aren't always receptive to straight away. But I mean, obviously, just think of something like It's a Sin.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think everyone would love to work for Russell in some capacity.
Yeah, and actually, even within the worlds of Doctor Who that he's created, he has a way of bringing those messages kind of almost under the radar. You're sitting there quite instantly enjoying an episode of Doctor Who, and then perhaps only realise, oh, this is about that, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's food for thought.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think even, just casting Yasmin Finney for the 60th is so important. And, people talk about things as being, woke and all this kind of stuff. And that is just so separate from what it is. And I think to put, a trans incredible actress in a mainstream show that is also for children, I think is just such a beautiful way to start that conversation about representation. So
Yeah, that's right. To start a
I think that's
conversation.
amazing. Yeah,
Exactly right.
totally.
Yeah. And also, you don't have to watch it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
If it's too woke for you, don't watch
Yeah,
it.
totally.
Now, we've spoken a lot about a Big Finish, so let's have a look and a listen to Sarah Jane Smith in action, shall we?
Thank you.
Back on good old space station Nova.
So all we have to do now is find the TARDIS.
It's still here.
What?
Have they done this place up?
It does look a little different, doesn't it?
3 of them? Where the heck did 3 people just appear from?
What the devil do they want?
That's academic, surely, Commander. The point is that they're here without notice or warning, and they've totally ignored the quarantine signals. They'll have to pay the penalty.
Well, of course I know. I was there.
Doctor!
Sarah, are you all right?
In the corner there, I
What?
saw
What?
a giant caterpillar with red flashing eyes. It moved. It seemed to be looking at me.
Where's my 500-year diary?
You keep a diary?
Well, I live a fascinating life. I should publish. The reviews will be sensational. Ah.
Hey, look, Doctor. Ahoy there! There's some fellow up there.
Hello there. I'm a doctor. These are my assistants.
Doctor?
Yes. We've returned to Nova to collect some medical specimens.
That doesn't explain why you ignored our quarantine signals.
Quarantine?
You've risked catching the plague.
Plague? Well, this day just gets better and better.
There we go. It's lovely. I want to applaud, but that's essentially. I mean, it's delightful, of course. There's Tom Baker. There you are. There's Chris Naylor as Harry Sullivan. It's complete, isn't it? What did you consciously have to look for a way in for the character, or obviously having grown up with your mum, were her rhythms already in there, or did you have to search for them?
Well, I mean, I watched quite a lot of Doctor Who before going down to do that, because having never done it, I was quite apprehensive, thinking, oh gosh, what's it going to sound like? Will it be terrible?
Yeah.
But I think you're kind of ahead of the game, aren't you, when you've lived with someone and you have that same timbre to your voice and the same, getting those cadences and the RP of it. I don't know if you find this.
Yeah.
The time period that something is set in can often help you find those rhythms and the grooves, and having... obviously, Chris Naylor is so fantastic, and Tom was actually there, the only one that I've done with him where he was there as well.
Gosh, right.
Having that interplay, I think, helps you find the rhythm of how their dynamic would be, that recreation.
Yeah.
How weird, though, talk about the plague, obviously doing it just before COVID.
There you go, I know.
Seems a lifetime ago.
Yes, doesn't it? And how was your first day sort of in studio as opposed to being in isolation? Did you record that prior to COVID then?
Yeah, so that was November 2019. So that was about 4 years ago.
So how different an experience was it to be, in the studio with people and then suddenly from home? Did you miss a connection in some way? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not great with names. I'm better with faces. So all the ones that I did remotely, I can't remember anyone that's in it, what it's about, what happened, none of that. But all the ones I did in studio, you remember who's there and that level of connection. And as an actor, I think you want to play, don't you? So you want to be in the booth and be with everyone. Yeah. But it was great, really. I mean, going around the world in your pajamas from home.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't complain.
No, that's true. I do remember we having to stop at some point in the one that we did with Chris Naylor, because I think he had some building going on next door.
Oh yeah.
Something.
Oh god. I mean, Jamie was saying to me before, like, has my terrible broadband or whatever improved?
Oh yeah.
No.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, there are so many tech
Yeah,
issues.
That's right. Now Ross, who's on our team, will never forgive me if I don't ask you about Sarah Jane Adventures. So what did that mean to your family when your mum found herself at the centre of attention again? I guess
it was amazing, really. I mean, so obviously, my mum had this great career in the 70s and things, but she always prioritised, family over career. So she had some opportunities in America that she turned down because her dad wasn't very well. Right. And then when I was born, I think she felt that she couldn't maybe be away from me, so she became more of a stay-at-home mum. But she always said to me that she knew that there was something else coming and that there would be something else, because she always said that she never let herself go, because she knew at some point that someone would come knocking. And after doing School Reunion, I think she thought that was going to be the full stop. And then when they asked her to do Sarah Jane Adventures, it was just amazing for her, really. Her, like she would call it, her Angela Lansbury, Jessica Fletcher moment, where she gets to, go around and solve all these mysteries and things. Right. And I mean, Ross and I were talking about how adult Sarah Jane Adventures actually is. I rewatched it recently. When you watch it as a block, it's so dark. I was like, oh.
Well, I mean, this speaks to what you said earlier about, it's good for children to experience, safe?
It's a safe, danger in a safe way, where they can, go through these big emotions.
With a character they love and trust.
Yeah, totally.
And the wonderful thing about Sarah Jane Adventures, of course, was, my generation, who remember Sarah Jane from back in the day, were now watching Sarah Jane Adventures with their children, who also fell in love with her. So it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and amazing, I think, for Russell and Phil Collinson and Nikki Wilson, I think. I can't remember everyone, apology, but for them to conceive a show like that, where it's for kids and the lead is a 6-year-old woman, I think is just amazing. So smart, so clever.
Yeah, sad in a way that hasn't sort of ignited a flame elsewhere for other older actresses, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like it is changing a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But for children's television, I think it was such a bold move and
absolutely
very cool that it took off.
So just before we round off, what's next for Sadie Miller that you can talk about?
I can talk about. So more big finishes, more writing stuff. Obviously taking my show on the road.
Yes.
Raising 2 small crazy boys.
That's work enough.
Yes,
absolutely. Great.
So thanks so much for having me. It's been really good fun.
Well, yet again, I cannot say this enough. It's our absolute pleasure to have you, Sadie. Finally, where can we find you on Instagram and so on if our viewers and listeners want to follow you?
Oh, yep. So my very long Instagram name, Sadie Miller, writer, VO, and all my other links are there on my Linktree link, so you can connect there.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much.
It's lovely to meet you. Sadie Miller, everybody!
Clap for you.